Do you ever feel a strange phantom limb sensation for a time you never actually lived through? You're walking through a modern city, the glass and steel reflecting a digital world, but beneath your feet, there are echoes. Every time you check your phone, every time you cast a vote, or even every time you breathe in air free of a specific ancient plague, you are living inside the ripples of a few shattered moments. But there's a secret about history we rarely discuss. Most world-changing events didn't look like fireworks when they started. They looked like a quiet man in a workshop, or a mistake in a laboratory. Today, we're uncovering the 10 hinges of history, the moments that slammed one door shut and locked us into the room we occupy today. And wait until we reach the 8th item on our list, because it explains a specific sound in your daily life that you've become completely deaf to. Before the mid-1400s, a book was a living thing. It was made of skin, vellum, and written with the steady, aching hand of a monk. If you owned one, you were likely a king or a saint. But in a small workshop in Mainz, a man was obsessed with a shadow. He wanted to find a way to make the human voice permanent, without the human hand. He envisioned a machine that could speak 1,000 times at once. The smell of oil and lead filled the room. This was the Gutenberg press. Before this, your thoughts died with you, or lived only as long as a piece of parchment didn't rot. But the press gave ideas wings. It broke the monopoly of the elite. But while we were learning to read, we were also learning to die. And the next shift in history started not with a word, but with a scab.
For centuries, a phantom stalked every cradle. It was a disease that didn't care if you were a peasant or a czar. It left its survivors scarred, blinded, or broken. People lived in a constant state of the waiting to see if the red spots would appear. But in 1796, a country doctor noticed something strange about the hands of milkmaids. They glowed, a resilience. This was the birth of the smallpox vaccine. Edward Jenner didn't just invent a medicine, he invented the idea that humanity could fight back against fate itself. It was the first time we looked at a natural death and said, no. It changed our population, our cities, and our very expectations of a long life. But that new sense of security was fragile, and it would eventually be shattered by a single wrong turn in a car in 1914. Imagine a sunny day in June. The air smells of horse manure and early summer blooms. A man is lost. His driver takes a wrong turn and stalls the engine. It's a mundane mistake, the kind you make when you're looking for a parking spot. But in that moment of silence, as the engine sputtered, a young man stepped off the curb with a Browning pistol. The assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand was the tension point that broke the world. It didn't just start World War I. It collapsed 4 empires and redrew the map of the Middle East in ways that caused the evening news headlines you see tonight. We are still living in the smoke of that stalled engine. Yet the fire from that war eventually led to a flash of light so bright it made the sun look dim. And it happened in a desert where nobody was supposed to be watching.
July 16th, 1945, New Mexico. The scientists described a smell, ozone and scorched sand. For a few seconds, the world didn't have a future. It only had a before and an after. The Trinity test didn't just end a war, it changed the psychological fabric of the human race. For the first time, we realized we were a species that could delete itself. That click, click, click became the background noise of the 20th century. It dictated where we built our houses and how we taught our children to hide under desks. We lived under the shadow of the button. But while we were looking down at the bunkers, some were looking up, leading to a moment where the entire world stopped breathing for exactly 109 minutes. In 1969, 3 men sat inside a tin can that smelled of recycled sweat and burnt electronics. When they looked back, they saw something no human had ever processed. The Earth wasn't a map with borders. It was a lonely, fragile marble in a basement of infinite black. The Apollo 11 moon landing was a tension point for the soul. It ended the era of earthbound thinking. It gave us the overview effect, the realization that we are all on one ship. It's the reason we have environmental movements and satellite GPS. But while we were conquering the stars, a much more grounded wall was being built back home. A wall that, when it fell, proved that no empire is permanent.
For 30 years, there was a scar across Berlin. It wasn't just stone. It was a physical manifestation of an invisible tension between two ways of existing. To touch it was to risk death. Then, in 1989, a mistake at a press conference, a misunderstood sentence, led to the fall of the Berlin Wall. The tension of the Cold War snapped. It felt like the end of history. We thought the world would be flat and peaceful from then on. We forgot that history moves in cycles, often driven by the very things that try to kill us. In fact, the entire modern world of high wages and workers' rights wasn't born from a wall falling. It was born from a flea. In the 1340s, the air felt heavy. People spoke of corrupted vapors. The Black Death wiped out nearly half of Europe. It was an apocalypse. But in the silence that followed, something strange happened. Because there were so few people left, the value of a human being skyrocketed. Peasants who were once slaves could now demand wages. It broke the back of feudalism and paved the way for the Renaissance. It was a horrific reset that accidentally birthed the middle class. But once people had money, they wanted more, and they wanted it faster. This led to a mechanical heartbeat that changed the very way we perceive time.
Before the late 1700s, you woke up when the sun rose. You worked until it set. Your life was circular. Then came the steam engine. Suddenly, work didn't happen in a field. It happened in a factory. This was the Industrial Revolution. It introduced the concept of the punch clock. It took us away from the smell of hay and into the smell of coal and grease. We became parts of a machine. This is the sound you're deaf to. The relentless, linear ticking of a clock that tells you you're late. But as we mastered the machine, we realized that half of our machines, the ones that kept our homes running, were being operated by people who had no voice in how the world was run.
For a century, there was a tension in the home. Women managed the finances, the education, and the survival of the family. Yet they were legally ghosts. The passage of the 19th Amendment and similar suffrage movements globally wasn't just about a piece of paper. It rewired the economy. It changed what politicians promised and how products were sold. It was the first time the other half of humanity was allowed to help steer the ship. Yet, even as we found our voices, a new web was being spun. One that would eventually connect every kitchen, every office, and every thought into a single buzzing hive.
In 1989, a scientist at CERN wanted a better way to share lab notes. He created a system of links. He didn't know he was building a digital nervous system for the planet. The World Wide Web is the final point of tension. It has removed the forgotten from history. Everything is now. The tactile feel of a library book, the smell of a newspaper, these are becoming ghosts. We live in a world where every moment is recorded, yet nothing feels permanent. We walk through our lives thinking we are the protagonists of a brand new story, but we are actually living in the delay of these 10 massive resolutions. We are the children of the press, the survivors of the plague, and the inhabitants of the web. History isn't just dates in a textbook. It's the reason your morning coffee tastes the way it does, and why you feel a certain way when you look at the stars. But I want to know about your history.
What is an object or a forgotten thing in your family that feels like a time capsule? Was it a grandfather's war medal, or perhaps the specific way your grandmother used a rotary phone? Tell me your forgotten story in the comments. Let's keep the thread going. And if you want to uncover more of the shadows we live in, subscribe. We're just getting started with the things we've left behind.